to supply arms to Rwanda was influenced by humanitarian considerations that people who are unarmed are going to be victims of that army which is outside the borders, which is being trained and prepared to go back and commit those massacres. It is in that light that we took this decision to arm Rwanda in consultation with the leaders in that region.
The death toll of South African soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo has risen to 13. While many focus on the surface level events, few truly understand the deep-rooted causes of this conflict. Former President Thabo Mbeki has drawn a striking parallel to South Africa's own history to explain the crisis, yet the world isn't listening. Today, we uncover the real story behind the Eastern DRC conflict and why Mbeki might be the only leader with the right approach.
So in the Kivus, this is part of the problem, in the Kivus in the Far East. That's why you have the M23. It's because the Rwandan people, the Banyamulenge in Eastern Congo, have for many decades felt this, that they don't have the protection of the government in Kinshasa. So they need to protect themselves.
Welcome to Inkari, It's Time. I'm Kondus, and today we're diving deep into the devastating conflict in the Great Lakes region, where South African soldiers have lost their lives in the line of duty. What's really happening in the DRC? Who is responsible? And why does the African Union and SADC need to seriously consider Thabo Mbeki as the lead mediator? Let's get to the roots of the issue beyond propaganda. The human cost of the conflict. The total number of South African soldiers killed in the DRC has now reached 13. Their deaths are linked to escalating violence involving the M23 rebel group. The humanitarian crisis is worsening, with thousands displaced and entire communities destroyed. Understanding the M23 conflict, history and root causes. The M23 rebel group claims to represent Congolese Tutsis who face persecution. Rwanda has been accused of backing M23, while the DRC government seeks to eliminate them. This is not a new crisis. It has deep colonial and post-independence roots, fueled by unresolved ethnic tensions, economic interests, and foreign interventions. Thabo Mbeki's perspective, a clearer understanding. Mbeki explains the issue using a South African analogy. Open quote. Imagine if South Africa declared that Setswana-speaking people in the Northwest are not South Africans and must go to Botswana. That is essentially what is happening in Eastern DRC. Close quote. This highlights how the conflict is about identity, borders, and historical grievances. Mbeki has a track record of successful peace negotiations in Africa, making him the ideal mediator.
There's a problem in the Congo which has not been resolved up to today. I'm talking about the DRC. We're back to that NDR I was talking about. As you know, part of the population in the Eastern Congo is Rwanda speaking, the Banyamulenge. Part of the problem in the Congo is that from the days of Mobutu, they refused to recognize that the Banyamulenge are Congolese. They might be Rwanda speaking, but these are Congolese. And it's the responsibility of any government in Kinshasa to look after this section of the Congolese population like any other. But you remember what happened during the Mobutu years. Mobutu took the position that these are foreigners. It's like the South Africans here saying, I mean, they're Tswana-speaking people here in the Northwest. And suddenly the rest of the country says, those are not South Africans, they must go to Botswana. So what happened in the Congo case, that's how you had the Mai Mai emerge in the Eastern Congo. The Mai Mai were specifically targeting the Banyamulenge to drive them out of the Congo into Rwanda. But I'm saying it's a responsibility of the central government in the Congo to look after this population, which is Congolese. It's not Rwandan. It's Congolese. It's Rwandan speaking. That's the first problem. The second problem is that the administrative footprint of the government in Kinshasa does not reach the East.
Africa's response, AU and SADC roles. The African Union and SADC needed sober, objective leadership in mediating this crisis. Mbeki's diplomatic experience and deep understanding of African conflicts make him the best candidate. The failure to address the real causes of this conflict means more death, not just of soldiers, but also of innocent civilians. And Paul Kagame, the Rwandan president, is not helping this situation. He says Rwanda is ready for confrontation with South Africa if necessary.
For the last 2 days, on Monday and today this morning, I spoke with the President of South Africa, who sought me out to speak with me on this matter because of their involvement in Eastern Congo. And he's also there pretending to be playing a peacemaker role. And he has a force that has been fighting alongside FDLR and has been fighting the M23 on the instructions of Tshisekedi, because these are people who are not supposed to be in Congo, that these are from Rwanda, or the M23 are not Rwandans, please. These are Congolese, and one time he accepts it, then another time he says no, part of it is yes, and then the other part is from Rwanda, and these are He keeps on going. And how do we, leaders of our own countries, accept this to go on forever and just accept that we shall be manipulated by Tshisekedi or whoever is supporting him? And South Africa dares even issue threats about what is likely to happen after that, and so on and so forth. Of course, we will see what threats they are talking about. Maybe they should have done that exactly for which they have been issuing threats. They should have done it to clean up the mess in Eastern Congo, or to fight back those who have been trying to clean up the mess. So then you have the whole international community just confused. They talked about Rwanda, they talked about the Nairobi process. Honestly, even here, maybe you will help me understand what all this means. The processes became an end in themselves. And the people leading these processes became more important than the results of the processes. The Nairobi process became a Uhuru process. Then the Rwanda process, it's like you can't say anything that will displease President Lorenzo. Definitely, this does not help deal with such a serious matters as we are faced with today. That in the end, just because they can't be addressed, we have such a situation like we have now.
Nelson Mandela and Julius Nyerere taught us to look at the roots of a problem. Thabo Mbeki warns us about the consequences. The question is, will Africa listen before it's too late? Will we keep losing our brothers and sisters in unnecessary wars while the real issues remain unresolved? We must demand an African-led solution that prioritizes peace, justice, and truth.
The kingdom of Rwanda was partitioned between the Germans and the Belgians. And the Belgians took a part of the kingdom of Rwanda, the traditional kingdom of Rwanda, with the people. So when we say respect that border, which was agreed between the Germans and the Belgians, we must also be saying respect the people whom you received under that partition. You can't turn around and say, we no longer want you. You are no longer citizens of our country. What are you going to do? Are you going to return them alone, or you return them with the piece of land? You can't say go home. Home where? We couldn't in Tanzania get fed up with the Maasai and say the Maasai go home to Kenya. Kenya is not their home. These are Maasai of Tanzania. And my friend Moi can't, for some reason or other, get fed up with the Maasai of Kenya and say go back to Tanzania. That it's not back to Tanzania. They've never been in Tanzania. They've always been there. Their country was partitioned between the British and the Germans. And part of them went to Dutch East Africa, and part of them went to British East Africa. They are Kenyan.
What do you think about Mbeki's perspective? Should he lead mediations efforts in the DRC conflict? Let's discuss in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Inkari. It's time for more critical discussions on African issues. Let's navigate life with purpose. Thank you for watching and take care.